Hello, welcome back to another Pen Talk. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for continuing to show interest in following along with my journey through the exciting world of fountain pens. I've collected a lot of vintage during my 40 plus years of fountain pen interest. And at one time, and I still am, focused on fountain pen sets. And generally with vintage, that would mean a fountain pen and some type of pencil which may match to some degree the design of the fountain pen. So these are four that I selected, pens that I haven't shown before, so that makes them interesting, and pens that I hope you might have an interest in, at least from curiosity viewpoint. So let's dive into each of these individually and take a look at it, and I'll share my thoughts on the pens and pencils these contain. Here's a vintage pen maker that many may have some experience with, is Esterbrook. Don't know what was back here. This may have been in a display case at one time in its life. There's a little bit of wear, but that's to be expected. If we open up, we'll find some tissue, which I think may have been put there by the person who shipped me the pen set. And as you see, I had a note on the nib because this is one of those interesting nibs that Esterbrook used for a while that many people had an interest in. These, I think, are very representative of typical pen and pencil sets of the age. This is in the 40s, maybe up until the mid-50s when they stopped making them. You know, you have your jewel at the top. The pencil's a slightly different design of the jewel, but the clip is identical as far as what's on it and the branding. You know, the band at the bottom of the cap is pretty much the same. The materials don't match up 100%, but that's typical of this material that they used for these pens. The other thing that was nice is this is a rappel pencil, so you push down and the lead comes out. Kind of like has been popular with a lot of mechanical pencils that are around today. And if you push it down, you can push the lead back up. This pulls off to reveal your eraser, which is pretty non-functional. They dry out and harden and lose their ability to erase. But generally, if you pull this out, inside here will be your spare leads, and there's a number of them in there. So to me, one of the things that make Esterbrook's interesting pens is all the metal parts are stainless steel, so they really survive through time very, very well. These are substantial. They feel good in the hand. They certainly belie their lower cost compared to the other pens of the era. You know, just unscrew cap, and then we see that interesting nib. The 9128 is their supposedly flex nib. I don't really consider it that flexy. It requires, as you can see, a lot of pressure to do a little bit of a separation of those tines. And I've written with a number of these nibs, and none of them are very satisfying as far as my perspective goes. It's a nice fine writer, and it has a little bit of bounce to it. A lot of the nibs of this time frame were very stiff and unyielding. But other than that, it didn't excite me too much. And this cap and barrel are a lot of differences in that shade of green, so maybe they weren't exactly shipped that way, or they could have been. Who knows? So now we're on to mystery box number 2. I would say a fairly feminine design and fairly good shape. As we pop off the top, we'll see 2 interesting Schaefer balances. These are in as received condition, and there's that Schaefer in that nice satiny material. that's in the top. Nice, good, springy lid. And as we look at the pen and pencil, we'll see similar traits to what we saw with the Esterbrook. The pencil shares some design elements, certainly with the pen, but is smaller. This one is a turn to extract the lead. So that's more typical than the repel mechanism in the Esterbrook. This is just a really classic Schaefer balance with those nice green stripes. We take off the cap, it reveals a nice nib. It's feather touch, number 5, two-tone. This, like with the Esterbrook, it probably requires the bladder to be replaced, but these are not going to be writing with me. I just enjoy the fact of having the set in my collection. Mystery box number 3. I would say, again, a very feminine design. A spring-loaded cap. Well, not really spring-loaded, but it's just a pressure fit. And we'll see 2 Conway Stewarts. And that top has the Conway Stewart embossed. This is from that lead from the pencil, which we'll look at when we open it up. But that same similar design trait of the pencil being smaller than the pen, in this case significantly smaller than the pen, a beautiful resin that the pens are made from, and very good engraving. I'd say these are mint in box. Not a bladder that I would use without probably replacing it. Yeah, the clips are very similar, but again, there's a size difference. Different finials at the top. We have a black one and a metal one here, so that's a different version. But other than that, they're definitely a set, but no band here at the pen as there is on the pencil. And we look at this. This is a number 15. Conway Stewart was very good at labeling the pen model, and that cap comes off very easily. And we'll see what I consider to be a very nice nib. Now, it's not a big nib, but then this is not a big pen. But it's a nice stubby, and it is soft, as you can see, with much less pressure than I was putting on the Esterbrook. Those tines spread very nicely and very easily. I've used a number of Conway Stewarts of various times from the early 30s up until the 90s, and I've always been very happy with them. The ones made in the 50s I consider to be their premium time of making pens, and these are from a similar time frame in the 50s. So our 4th mystery box is the smallest of the group. It's not quite as feminine as the other boxes were. And we'll see a engraving there on the back. It's a hinged lid, kind of spring-loaded, and we'll see the brand. Whoop. It's a Morrison. I have a few Morrisons. I haven't done any really videos specifically with the Morrisons, but they were, like a tier 2 pen manufacturer that was pretty popular in the 20s and through the 40s. This is an interesting angle at both the pencil and pen with a nice ivory insert. The clips are fairly similar. Like the other pens, these are as received. I haven't done anything to clean them up. We'll see a nice engraving. It says Cameo Top. And I'll put a link to an interesting discussion on Richard Binder's great fountain pen site about this model and this design. I have a couple other Morrisons with an angled top, and some of them have emblems from different military organizations there. This is like the Schaefer. You turn it to extract the lead, but it doesn't move very well. This is obviously the oldest of these sets. Maybe the Schaefer is about in the same time period. And, I could work on that when I get motivated. The cap comes off in less than one turn, a little bit over a half a turn, and we'll see a 14 karat gold nib there. It's always interesting that these pens always had nice 14 karat gold nibs in it. This is certainly a small pen, not something I would use unposted, but it does post fine, and it's balanced in the hand very well. And if we look at that nib, it's soft like the nib on the Conway Stewart, which is very typical of pens of this era. So hopefully you've enjoyed this little run through of some pen and pencil sets. So we're just going to do a quick look at some modern ones that I have, and then we'll call it a day. So inside the Morrison box was this guarantee, and the paper hasn't survived well over time. But it basically said the pen was warranted and guaranteed to be in perfect workmanship and give entire satisfaction to the user. Has some instructions. And if we turn it over, we'll see that the guarantee certificate by the Morrison Fountain Pen Company in Fifth Avenue, New York City. And if you want to send the pen back for repair, enclose a 15-cent stamp for return, postage, and insurance. Certainly dates this. So we're not going to zip ahead too far into the future, because some of the pens that we looked at from a vintage collection were as late as the 50s. And this is a pen set I bought in the 70s. Some may recognize these. There's the Noblesse series by Montblanc. A lot of discussion over whether Montblanc actually made these or how they were made. But they're all logoed. Just a push to extract the ballpoint, and you push on the clip to retract the ballpoint. And this is the pencil, which is the Propel pencil, which is what was very common in those days. And then we have the fountain pen. This fountain pen was challenging for me because it only took cartridges, no converter would fit. It's a very different nib that Montblanc I don't think used on any other of their pens. It's a comfortable pen in the hand, very thin, and it does now have a converter. It took me a while to find and to fit it in there. It's a Pelican converter, which is what you might expect would fit, but not obvious. So that's one of those in this series, what I try to call into the modern category. Yes, I own a Lamy 2000, which I probably bought in the 70s or early 80s. And I also bought the complete set that came with the fountain pen. Here we have the pencil. And it says a number 5 at the top. I think they're all labeled at the top. And this again is that repel mechanism. This works a little bit better than the one in the Montblanc. And here we have the ballpoint. And that you just do a double click. And here is the more interesting of the version here. This has different colored refills in there. It's green, red, and that looks like maybe a blue, and then if you keep it up like this, it turns out black. So as you turn it, you turn this so that is facing up, then when you push down, it pushes out the refill that corresponds to the color that's on the barrel. No need to look further into the Lamy 2000 because it has been reviewed by a lot of people. I like this design as it's been rendered in different formats, different functions. My Lamy 2000 was an everyday carry for a long time, and actually the only pen I ever lost, and so I had to replace it. So this is the second one. Works well. A workhorse of a pen. So the Lamys cover a whole range of dates. The 2000 is still made, and I think they still make most of the other versions, but not as popular. Here we have a Parker Dualfold, so we've now raced into the 90s. Done a lot of reviews on Parker Dualfolds. This blue one has shown up in a couple of compilation videos that I've done, but I've never really showed the ballpoint. And again, like the common theme that we've seen before is the fountain pen is the larger pen of the models, and the ballpoint or pencil is the smaller one. And this is a push to extract, and you push the whole cap down. So I like that design. It's very interesting, very well done. You know, this unscrews and you can replace the refill, and of course it's a standard Parker refill. You wouldn't expect anything else. So it's a nice design. Last but not least is this Waterman Opera set. It's a very popular pen in the 90s, and as I did a recent review of Fountain Pen Hospital catalogs, I got this set by swapping with them my 14 karat gold filled Skyline fountain pen and pencil. I thought it was a good trade. I really wanted these. I like the vintage look of that chased pattern. You know, it's a pull-off cap, and we see a beautiful 18 karat nib. This is when Watermans were being made in France. I just like it. It has a good weight to it. It feels good in the hand. Incredibly good nib on it. Equal to the ones in the Parker Dualfolds. That, to me, the 90s were an interesting time for fountain pens, especially, you know, Parker's, and Schaefer was late to the game with their New Balance 2. And here's the equivalent ballpoint. And this one is a turn, you turn to extract it and turn the other way to retract it. So again, very nicely done. You know, of all the sets, I think this one really hits all the buttons for me, presses all the buttons for me, and I like it. So many of you may have asked whether I have any nice leather pen cases, and I do. And this actually came in this leather case. No, I didn't. This is a leather case that I got from Launcher, which are now making a lot of nice pens. We flip up the top, and we'll hopefully recognize something there. Yes, these are Pelicans. And this is the 400 set in tortoise with the fountain pen, pencil, and ballpoint. And again, they've done a nice job in keeping that design motif together. And of course, the fountain pen is the thicker and larger of the pens, but not by a lot. And the pencil and fountain pen are very typical of the sizes of those pens of this era. Very nice resin. You know, interesting engraving there at the top. And the same type on the pencil. And the fountain pen is also very nice. Yeah, it's obviously been used quite a bit, and it's just a straight 400. And if we look on the barrel, we don't see any of the engraving, so it's not a, you know, a commercial pen. Just unscrew the cap, and we see a very, very nice nib there. These vintage Pelicans had great nibs, and they are a little bit on the soft side, which they are known for. So here's a nice leather case. Kind of a interesting red color. If we take off the flap. We'll see another interesting set. Recognizable logo there at the top of each three of these, and these are pilots. At one time I was really much into the wooden pens, and the Pilot wooden pen was one of my favorites, and I do have two of them. The other one, the cap is split, which is not unusual for wood. I do keep these well oiled and well protected, and they're in fairly good shape. The color doesn't match, probably a different wood in the pencil and ballpoint, but still nice. And again, it's the same type of theme as we saw before, where the fountain pen is a little bit larger, but in this case they're pretty much lengthwise and about the same. This is a classic pull-off cap, and we see one of those incredible inlaid nibs that Pilot is famous for from this time frame. You know, just a cartridge converter, but you know, I was really into these, but that fine nib eventually got to me, fine to extra fine, and in the Japanese world it is a very fine to extra fine nib. I couldn't leave these alone, so I did my normal coating that I put on my wooden pens, which is mineral oil and beeswax combination. So the mineral oil can soak in and nurture the wood, and then the beeswax provides like a protective coating on the outside, you know, an all natural kind of finish. And the pencil and ballpoint have certainly darkened up, and so has the fountain pen. The fountain pen, I think, has certainly seen more use, and that darkening may be over age, but then again, these are fairly rare pens, so I haven't done a lot of research on what different types of wood that they may or may not have used. So hopefully you've enjoyed this quick view through my history of pen sets. It's not a very popular thing that people do nowadays, but I certainly enjoyed it when I was rapidly into it, and I'll still try to get a set if that's an option. Well, we've reached the end of this video, and I hope you found it interesting. Certainly a little different. So may you enjoy all of your writing experiences and explore this phenomenal world of writing instruments that we are fortunate to be able to engage with. Put some ink on paper, pencil, ballpoint. To me, writing is a pleasure unto itself, and the instrument certainly can be conducive to the writing, but is not the only part. Enjoy whatever you write with. May you all stay safe, healthy, and happy, and enjoy every minute to its fullest. So we're going to say thanks for watching. We've now reached the end of this video. We're going to say bye until the next video.